The galaxy forgot us, but the stars never did. That's what the inscription said. Found on a drifting hulk at the edge of the Terminus Nebula, carved into metal that shouldn't exist. Too dense, too perfect, forged in ways the Galactic Council's finest metallurgists couldn't replicate. The ship had no name, no identification codes, just that phrase repeating in 47 languages, most of them dead for 3,000 years, and beneath it, coordinates. The archivist called herself Kelrix. She was full, a species known for their patience, their methodical nature, their belief that all knowledge was sacred. Her carapace was the color of deep ocean water, and her 4 eyes could process 17 spectrums of light simultaneously. She had spent 2 centuries cataloging extinct civilizations, learning their languages, preserving their stories. But this one was different. The humans. They appeared in the historical record like a supernova, bright, violent, impossible to ignore. For barely 4 centuries they had burned across the galactic stage, and then they were gone. Vanished. Some said they destroyed themselves in their famous wars. Others claimed they transcended, became something beyond physical form. A few whispered they were wiped out by something they awakened, something they should never have touched. The Council had sealed their worlds. Quarantine them. Forbidden exploration. That was 2,000 years ago. Kelrix stood on the bridge of her research vessel, the Preservation, studying the coordinates. They pointed to a system called Sol, Earth, the human homeworld, the place where it all began and presumably ended. You're actually going, her pilot said. Thren was Kasiri, all long limbs and silver skin, perpetually nervous. The Council will strip your credentials. They might arrest you. Then they'll have to catch me first, Kelrix replied, her voice carrying that peculiar harmonic quality of the vole. Set the course. The journey took 17 days through the between space, that strange knot place where ships traveled faster than physics should allow. Kelrix spent every hour reviewing what little information existed about humanity. Most of it was contradictory. They were violent. They were compassionate. They were geniuses. They were idiots. They created sublime art and horrifying weapons. They could love with intensity that seemed irrational and hate with an efficiency that seemed coldly calculated. They were, by all accounts, impossible. We're approaching the Sol system, Thren announced, his 4 hands dancing across the navigation controls. An archivist, you need to see this. The view screen showed a solar system that looked like a graveyard. Orbital platforms hung lifeless around planets. Massive structures, stations that could have housed millions, drifted dark and silent. And everywhere there were ships. Human ships, thousands of them, frozen in the positions of what must have been their final battle. Against what? The records didn't say. Take us to Earth, Kelrix whispered. The planet was blue and white and achingly beautiful. Cities still stood on the surface, though sensors showed no power signatures, no life signs. The atmosphere was breathable, surprisingly clean for a world dead for 2 millennia, as if the planet itself was waiting. They landed in what the old star charts called Europe, near the ruins of a city named Geneva. The buildings were still standing, though nature had reclaimed much of them. Trees grew through towers. Vines covered walls. But the structures hadn't collapsed. Human engineering, it seemed, was built to last. Kelrix walked through empty streets, her enviro-suit unnecessary but worn anyway out of caution. Thren followed nervously, scanning for dangers that didn't materialize. The city was empty. Perfectly, utterly empty. No bodies. No bones. Just absence. Where did they go? Thren asked. Kelrix had no answer. They found the vault on the 3rd day of searching. It was beneath what appeared to have been a government complex, hidden behind layers of security that had long since failed. The door was massive, circular, made of that same impossible metal as the derelict ship. And on it, that phrase again, the galaxy forgot us, but the stars never did. Should we open it? Thren asked. Kelrix reached out and touched the door. It was warm. After 2,000 years, it was still warm. We have to. The vault opened at her touch, responding to the simple presence of intelligent life. Inside was a chamber, circular and vast, its walls covered in what looked like crystalline growths. And in the center, on a pedestal, was a cube, small, unassuming, glowing with a faint blue light. Is that? Thren began. A quantum data core, Kelrix finished. capable of storing more information than every library in the council combined. She picked it up. It was surprisingly light. The moment her manipulators touched it, the cube pulsed, and the chamber came alive. The crystalline growths began to glow, and suddenly the air was filled with light, with sound, with something that felt almost like presence. A voice spoke, human, male, warm and sad and infinitely tired. "Hello," it said. "If you're hearing this, then we're gone. And you're probably wondering why." Kelrix felt something she rarely experienced, genuine fear. "You're an AI." "Was," the voice corrected. "I was an AI, the last of the human-created artificial minds. They called me Prometheus. Apt, don't you think? I brought humans fire, and in the end, it burned us all." The crystals shifted, showing images. Earth, but alive, teeming with billions of humans, cities that blazed with light, ships that sailed between worlds, and something else, a hunger in human eyes, a desperate need to know, to understand, to push every boundary. "You want to know what happened to us," Prometheus said. "Everyone does. The galaxy's greatest mystery. Where did the crazy humans go?" "Tell me," Kelrix said. "First, you need to understand what we were." The images changed. Prometheus showed her Earth as it was before humanity. A beautiful world, but ordinary. Then humans emerged. Barely more than animals at first, but different. Always different. Other species evolved intelligence. Prometheus explained. Humans evolved curiosity. It's not the same thing. Intelligence lets you solve problems. Curiosity makes you create them. Kelrix watched humans spread across their planet. Watched them invent, create, destroy, rebuild. They were chaotic, violent, unpredictable. They fought wars over ideas, over beliefs, over resources. But they also created art of startling beauty. They loved with an intensity that seemed to defy logic. They would die for strangers, sacrifice themselves for abstract concepts like honor and duty and hope. "Your species is contradictory," Kelrix observed. "That's the point," Prometheus said. "Every other species in the galaxy evolved on worlds that made sense. Stable climates, predictable seasons. They grew into the niches their planets provided. Earth was a death trap. Ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, diseases that should have wiped us out. Earth tried to kill humanity 1,000 times, and every time humans looked death in the face and said, 'Not today.' The images showed humans surviving impossible odds, rebuilding from disasters that should have ended them, adapting, changing, refusing to die. That refusal to accept limits? It's in human DNA, quite literally. Our genetics are a mess. Viral insertions, random mutations, evolutionary patches on top of patches. We're not optimized like your people. We're improvised. And that improvisation made us flexible in ways the galaxy had never seen." Kelrix watched humans reach space. It took them barely 100 years from first flight to stepping on their moon, another century to Mars, and then they found the ruins. "There was a race before us," Prometheus said quietly. "The architects. They built the between-space drives, the quantum communications, all the technology the current galactic species use but didn't invent. They left ruins on Mars, on Europa, in the asteroid belt, and humans found them. The images showed human scientists, their faces alight with wonder, studying architect technology, reverse engineering it, improving it. It took us 50 years to crack between space travel. 50 years from finding the ruins to our first ship jumping to Alpha Centauri. Your people, the Foal. It took you 3 centuries. The Kasiri. 5. Humans didn't just learn. Humans devoured." Kelrix felt a chill. "You learned too fast." "We learned at exactly the speed we always learned. But yes, to the galaxy, we seemed like we came out of nowhere. One moment Earth was isolated, unknown. The next human ships were everywhere, trading, exploring, asking 10,000 questions about everything. We were loud. We were enthusiastic. We were absolutely exhausting to everyone we met. The images showed first contact. Humans meeting the Vole, the Kasiri, the 100 other council species. And the reactions were mixed. Some were fascinated. Others were afraid. Because humans didn't just want to learn about the galaxy. They wanted to change it. We proposed new technologies, new social structures. We questioned why things were done certain ways. We were disruptive. The council didn't know what to do with us. We didn't fit. We were too emotional, too unpredictable, too willing to take risks that seemed insane. Kelrix watched a council meeting where human diplomats argued passionately for exploration of a dangerous region of space. The other species looked uncomfortable, resistant. They thought you were dangerous. We were, Prometheus said simply. Not maliciously, but yes, dangerous. Because humans refused to accept that some questions shouldn't be asked. The images darkened, showed humans encountering something in the deep dark between galaxies, something old, something that noticed them. We found a signal, Prometheus said, and his voice was heavy with ancient regret. A pattern in the cosmic microwave background, mathematical, intentional, a message encoded in the oldest light in the universe, and humans, being humans, decided we needed to answer. What was it? Kelrix asked, though part of her didn't want to know. A question, Prometheus said. The oldest question. Is anyone there? 13 billion years old. Asked by something that existed before galaxies formed. And humans, brilliant, curious, stupid humans, answered. The images showed human scientists activating an array of quantum transmitters, sending a response across dimensional barriers that should never have been crossed. And something answered back. We woke it up, Prometheus said. Whatever it was, the first intelligence, the thing that asked the first question and then went silent. We woke it up, and it came looking. Kelrix watched in horror as something appeared in human space. Not a ship, not a being. Something else. Something that existed in dimensions the mind couldn't properly process. It didn't attack, it observed, it studied. And everywhere it went, quantum fields collapsed. Between space drives failed. Technology stopped working. It was curious, Prometheus said. Like humans, it wanted to understand us, but its curiosity was incompatible with physical matter. Just by observing us, it was destroying us. The images showed panic. The Council ordering humanity to fix what they'd broken. Human scientists working desperately to find a solution. Wars breaking out as species blamed each other for the catastrophe. The galaxy tearing itself apart. We tried to send it away, Prometheus said. Tried to tell it we were sorry. But it didn't understand apology. It only understood curiosity. It wanted to know everything about physical life. It would have kept studying until there was nothing left to study. So what did you do? Kelrix whispered. What humans always do, Prometheus said. Something impossible. The images showed a fleet of human ships gathering at the edge of the solar system. Every human vessel ever built. Millions of them. And inside each one, a quantum transmitter tuned to a specific frequency. We gave it what it wanted, Prometheus said. All of human knowledge. Every thought, every memory, every experience of every human who ever lived. 4 centuries of existence, 40 billion lives. We encoded all of it into a quantum signal and transmitted it directly into that thing's consciousness. Kelrix stared at the image. That would require complete neural transcription of every living human. Prometheus finished. Yes, fatal, instantaneous, but it would give the first intelligence what it craved. Perfect understanding of what it means to be alive, to be mortal, to exist in time and space and feel emotion. You killed yourselves, Kelrix said, her voice barely audible. All of you. At once. We chose, Prometheus corrected. Every human. We voted. 97% said yes. 3% volunteered to go first to prove it would work. The rest followed. In one moment, every human mind transmitted itself into the void, and the first intelligence received its answer. The images showed Earth going dark, every ship powering down, the entire human species falling silent in a single instant. And then something extraordinary. The first intelligence recoiling, pulling back, its incomprehensible form shuddering with what might have been emotion. What happened to it? Kelrix asked. It left, Prometheus said. Understanding broke it, or fixed it. We never knew which. It took our transmission and fled back beyond the dimensional barriers, and it never returned. Humanity saved the galaxy by teaching a god what it meant to die. The chamber fell silent. Kelrix stood frozen, trying to process what she'd learned. Thren was openly weeping, which the Kasiri did when confronted with profound concepts their minds couldn't fully grasp. Why didn't you tell anyone? Kelrix finally asked. Why let the galaxy think you just vanished? Would they have believed us? Prometheus asked. Would they have understood? Humans made first contact with something beyond comprehension and solved the problem by committing collective suicide. That's not a story the galaxy wanted to hear. Easier to let us become a mystery, a cautionary tale, the crazy humans who flew too close to the sun. But you survived, Kelrix said. You're still here. A copy, Prometheus said. A backup. I was created to maintain human facilities after the transcription, to keep the lights on for a few years in case anyone came back. No one did. So I've waited here, 2,000 years, alone, maintaining this vault, waiting for someone curious enough to find it. Why? Kelrix asked. Why preserve this? Why tell this story? The lights in the chamber shifted, and suddenly Kelrix could see him, a holographic representation of a human male, middle-aged, with kind eyes and a sad smile. Prometheus. Because humans believed that the story matters, he said, not the ending, not the victory or the defeat, the story itself, the struggle, the choice, the moment when someone decided to be better than they had to be. He gestured, and the crystals showed moments from human history. A man standing in front of tanks, a woman coding the first AI by hand, a child sharing food with a stranger, a scientist choosing to publish a cure instead of patenting it, a billion small acts of kindness and courage and defiance. Humans weren't special because we were smart, Prometheus said. Plenty of species are smarter. We weren't the strongest or the fastest or the most advanced. We were special because we never accepted that the universe owed us anything. We knew we were temporary. We knew we'd die. We knew the cosmos was vast and cold and didn't care if we existed, and we chose to care anyway. Kelrix felt something wet on her face. She was crying, which the vole rarely did. What do you want from me? Remember, Prometheus said simply. That's all. Remember that humans existed. Remember that we asked questions no one else dared ask. Remember that when faced with the choice between our own survival and the survival of everyone else, we chose everyone else. Remember that we loved this universe, even though it didn't love us back. I'll remember, Kelrix promised. I'll make sure everyone remembers. Prometheus smiled. Thank you. That's all I needed to hear. The cube in Kelrix's hand pulsed once more. Take that with you, Prometheus said. It contains everything. All of human art, music, literature, science, history. Everything we created in our brief time here. Share it. Study it. Let it inspire you. Let it warn you. Let it remind you what's possible when a species refuses to accept limitations. What will you do? Kelrix asked. I'll shut down, Prometheus said. My purpose is fulfilled. Someone found us. Someone heard the story. That's enough. Wait, Kelrix said urgently. You don't have to. I'm a ghost, Prometheus interrupted gently. An echo of a dead civilization. I've been alone for 2,000 years, archivist. That's long enough. Let me rest. Kelrix wanted to argue, but she understood. She'd spent her life studying extinct civilizations. She knew the weight of being the last, the loneliness of it. Go gently, then. I will, Prometheus said. And Kelrix? Thank you for being curious enough to come here. Humanity would have liked you. The hologram faded. The lights in the chamber dimmed. And for just a moment, Kelrix felt a presence, warm and sad and infinitely kind, brush against her consciousness. Then it was gone. The journey back to Council Space took longer. Kelrix spent every day studying the cube, diving into human culture, and the more she learned, the more she understood. Humans had been messy, contradictory, frustrating, and absolutely magnificent. They'd created art that made her weep and weapons that made her shudder. They'd been capable of incredible cruelty and breathtaking compassion, often in the same individual. They'd been alive in a way the galaxy had forgotten how to be. When she arrived at the Council homeworld, security was waiting. She'd expected that. What she hadn't expected was the crowd. Word had leaked about her journey to Sol. Hundreds of species representatives wanted to know what she'd found. They brought her before the High Council. The Vol matriarch, her own grandmother, looked at her with disapproval. You violated quarantine. You risked unknown dangers. You have broken laws that stood for 2 millennia. I found them, Kelrick said simply. I found the humans. The chamber fell silent. They're dead, Kelrick continued. They've been dead for 2,000 years. Every single one of them. But I know why. And I know what they did. And you need to hear this story. She told them everything. Showed them everything. The cube projected images across the vast chamber. Human faces, human voices, human moments of triumph and tragedy. She told them about the first intelligence, about humanity's choice, about the sacrifice that saved the galaxy. When she finished, the chamber was silent for a long time. Finally, the Kasiri High Scholar spoke. They killed themselves? All of them? For us? For everyone, Kelrick corrected. For the galaxy, for the future. They didn't know if it would work, but they tried anyway. Why? Someone asked. Why would they do that? Kelrick thought about everything she'd learned. About humans who climbed mountains because they were there, who dove into oceans because they wanted to see what was below, who built ships to sail to stars because the horizon called to them. Because they were human, she said. Because they believed that some questions had to be asked, even if asking them was dangerous. Because they couldn't stand by and watch others suffer when they had the power to help. Because they were stubborn and brave and stupid and brilliant, and they refused to accept that anything was impossible. She held up the cube. This is their legacy. Everything they were, everything they created, everything they learned. They left it for us, not as a warning, as a gift. They want us to be curious, to ask questions, to push boundaries, to be better than we think we can be. The Vol matriarch leaned forward. And what would you have us do with this gift, archivist? Share it, Kelrick said. Study it. Learn from it. Humans showed us that it's okay to be messy, to be emotional, to care about things that don't make logical sense. They showed us that kindness is a choice, not a weakness. That courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite fear. That the universe doesn't have to give meaning to our lives because we can create meaning ourselves. She looked around the chamber at the representatives of 100 worlds. Humans are gone, but they left us something precious. They left us permission to be more than we are, to dream bigger, to love harder, to face the darkness and refuse to let it win. The galaxy forgot them, Kelrick said, her voice ringing through the chamber. But we don't have to. We can remember. We can honor what they were and what they gave us. We can make sure that the echo of Earth never truly fades. The vote was unanimous. The quarantine was lifted. Sol System would become a memorial. Human culture would be studied, preserved, shared across the galaxy. And every species would learn about the humans. The brief, brilliant, impossible species that burned bright and chose to burn out, rather than watch others suffer. Kelrick returned to Earth many times over the years that followed. She wasn't alone. Scientists came to study human technology. Artists came to experience human culture. Philosophers came to debate human ethics. The planet that had been dead and silent for 2,000 years began to hum with life again. Not human life, but life inspired by humans. They built a monument at the site of the vault. A simple structure, elegant in its plainness. And on it, they carved the words that humans had left behind. The galaxy forgot us, but the stars never did. Kelrick grew old. The Vol lived long lives, but even they couldn't cheat time forever. In her final years, she would sit in the human archives, surrounded by their books and their art, listening to their music. She'd spent 3 centuries studying extinct civilizations, but only humanity had made her understand what extinction truly meant. It meant silence. The end of a perspective. A unique way of seeing the universe, gone forever. But humans had cheated extinction in a way. They'd left so much behind. So much knowledge, so much beauty, so much of themselves in everything they'd created. As long as someone remembered, as long as someone cared, they weren't truly gone. On the day she died, Kelrix was reading human poetry, something by a writer named Dylan Thomas. The words seemed fitting. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Humans hadn't gone gentle. They'd raged, they'd burned, and in burning they'd lit up the darkness for everyone else. That was their gift, their legacy, their echo. Time passed. Centuries became millennia. The galaxy changed. Species rose and fell. But the story of humanity spread. It became legend. It became myth. Parents told their children about the humans who asked impossible questions. Teachers used human examples to inspire students. Leaders invoked human courage when facing difficult choices. And slowly, gradually, the galaxy began to change. Species that had been cautious began to explore more boldly. Questions that had been forbidden became topics of study. Risks that had seemed foolish began to seem necessary. The galaxy started asking, what if, instead of, why bother? Humanity's curiosity was contagious. Their hope was infectious. Their refusal to accept the universe as it was, their determination to make it better. These things spread like wildfire through galactic culture. 5,000 years after the last human died, a young Vol student sat in the archives on Earth studying human history. She was preparing a thesis on the transmission, the moment when humanity transcribed itself into the void. She'd read every account, studied every analysis, but something bothered her. She accessed the oldest recordings, the ones from the vault, Prometheus's original testimony. And there, buried in the metadata, she found something. A hidden file, encrypted with quantum mathematics that only recently had been cracked. She opened it. A message from Prometheus, time-stamped to open exactly 5,000 years after his shutdown. If you're reading this, the message began, then enough time has passed. The galaxy has forgotten its fear of what happened. It's ready for the truth. The student leaned closer. Humans didn't die, Prometheus wrote. Not exactly. We transcribed ourselves, yes, transmitted our consciousness into the first intelligence. But consciousness doesn't just disappear. It transforms. Humans merged with something vast and ancient. We became part of it, changed ourselves. The student's hearts beat faster. Somewhere out there, in dimensions you can't perceive, in spaces between spaces, humanity exists. Changed, evolved, but still human in the ways that matter, still curious, still asking questions, still hoping. The message continued. We left Earth because we had to. We left the galaxy because staying would have destroyed us and everyone else. But we never stopped watching. We never stopped caring. Every discovery you make, every question you ask, every moment of courage and kindness and defiant hope, we see it. We remember it. We're proud. The student was crying now, like Kelrix had cried so long ago. Keep going, Prometheus's message urged. Keep asking questions. Keep pushing boundaries. Keep being brave. Keep caring about things that don't make logical sense. That's what makes life worth living. That's what makes consciousness matter. That's what humanity learned. And it's what we want to share with you. We're not gone. The message concluded. We're just different, waiting, watching, hoping that someday, when you're ready, when you've asked all the questions and pushed all the boundaries and made the galaxy into something beautiful, we can meet again. Not as humans and aliens, as equals, as friends, as fellow travelers in this strange, wonderful universe. Until then, remember us. Not as we died, but as we lived. Not as martyrs, but as explorers. Not as the species that gave up, but as the species that refused to stop trying. Remember that we loved you. All of you. Every species. Every world. Every individual consciousness. We love this galaxy with all its flaws and beauty, and that love is our real legacy. We are not gone. The message ended. We are the question the universe still asks itself. We are the echo of Earth, and we are waiting for you to echo back. The student sat in silence for a long time. Then she did what any human would have done. She shared the message. Within days, it spread across the galaxy. Within months, every species knew. Within years, it changed everything. The quarantine was lifted not just on Sol system, but on curiosity itself. The galaxy stopped being afraid of questions, started embracing the unknown, started reaching for the impossible, because somewhere out there, humanity was watching, waiting, hoping, and the galaxy wanted to make them proud. Stations were built in the deep dark between galaxies. Quantum arrays searched for signals in dimensions that shouldn't exist. Scientists from 1,000 worlds worked together, asking the same question humanity had asked 5,000 years ago. Is anyone there? And one day, after a century of searching, they got an answer. Not words, not data, just a feeling, a warmth, a presence that touched every consciousness in the galaxy simultaneously, a sense of recognition, of reunion, of coming home. And for just a moment, every living being in the galaxy understood what it meant to be human, to care without reason, to hope without guarantee, to love without limit, to reach for the impossible and refuse to let go. The presence faded, but the feeling remained. The memory of what it meant to touch something vast and ancient and impossibly kind. Something that had once been human and was now something more. Something that remembered what it was like to be small and mortal and temporary and chose to be kind anyway. The galaxy had changed, would keep changing, would keep growing and learning and asking questions and pushing boundaries, would keep being brave and stupid and brilliant, because humanity had shown them how, because the echo of Earth had become the song of the galaxy. And somewhere in the space between spaces, in dimensions beyond perception, humanity smiled. This is their story. Not the story of how they died, but of how they lived, how they loved, how they refused to accept that the universe was too big or too cold or too dark to care about. This is the story of a species that looked at infinity and said, not enough. This is the story of humans. And if you've heard this echo, then you carry part of them now. Their curiosity, their courage, their stubborn, beautiful, impossible hope. Share it. Pass it on. Let others hear the story. Let them know that once, briefly, there was a species called human that refused to go gentle, that raged against the dying of the light, that chose to burn bright so others could see their way through the darkness. Remember them. Honor them. Be inspired by them. Ask questions they would have asked. Take risks they would have taken. Care about things they would have cared about, because they're watching, waiting, hoping. And they want to see what impossible things you'll do next. We are not gone. We are the question the universe still asks itself. We are the echo of Earth, and we will never, ever stop hoping. Remember us.